41 days in 1944 and 1945 shaped the face of World War II. Allied forces suffered approximately 89,000 casualties during this time. It was the single most deadly battle of the war. It's known in America as the Battle of the Bulge. In 9 days during the Battle of the Bulge, German forces were able to drive a 30-mile section of the front line back 35 miles, leading to a bulge in the front line, hence the name. Allied forces were finally saved by the arrival of General George Patton's Third Army at Bastogne. On September 16, 1944, Adolf Hitler, during a moment of silence during a meeting with his top commanders, developed a plan to force Allied forces into a peace treaty. His plan was to do this so he could allocate more forces to the Soviet winter offensive. He named it Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, or Operation Watch on the Rhine, which is after a popular German song of the period. His plan was crass, and it had elements of romanticism for the Fuhrer, whose armies, just 4 years earlier, had broken through the French lines and closed on the northern shore of France in just 2 weeks. The plan was designed to break through the Allied lines and take Antwerp, effectively encircling the Allied forces in northern Europe. He initially wished to begin the offensive in late November. However, due to logistical issues, the offensive did not begin until 3 weeks later, on December 16, 1944. The plan called for 4 armies and a mix of a two-pronged attack and the successful blitzkrieg strategy that had been used in the initial battle for France in 1940. The first and northernmost attacking force was the 6th SS Panzer Army that would attack from the German town of Monschau and take the port of Antwerp. The second army was the 5th Panzer Army that would attack from approximately 10 miles southwest of Bonn and take Brussels. This was the middle attacking force. The third army used was the 7th Army, consisting of 4 infantry divisions and no armor. It was tasked to hold the southern flank near the town of Echternach in Luxembourg. The 4th and final army used was the 17th Army. They were tasked to hold the northern flank and could be used as an attacking force if needed. For the plan to be successful, the German forces needed to meet 4 criteria. The first was they had to completely surprise the Allied forces. The second, the weather needed to be sufficiently poor as to hinder the Allied armies in resupply, intelligence gathering, and close air support capabilities. They needed to utilize speed, reaching the Meuse River by day 4. The fourth and final piece that they needed was they needed to capture the Allied fuel reserves, thereby being able to sufficiently shore up their stretched supply lines. Only one of these was met. The offensive began at 0500 on December 16, 1944, with 1,500 artillery pieces shelling an 80-mile stretch of the front. After 90 minutes of shelling, the 6th Panzer Army assaulted the Allied line between Lausanne Gap and Elsenborg Ridge in an attempt to break through to Liège. The 5th Panzer Army attacked towards Bastogne and Saint-Vith in an attempt to capture a point of 7 supply routes. The 7th Army pushed towards Luxembourg to secure the southern flank of the attack. Allied forces were stretched to the breaking point by the 6th Panzer Army Division, who reached Le Glaise in less than 36 hours. However, they were still behind schedule. The weather was exactly as the Germans had hoped, preventing the interdiction of Allied air power. However, it also hampered the Germans' ability to speed through the area. Poor roads and snowstorms severely slowed the advance. Additionally, Allied forces were able to destroy bridges and fuel supplies during their retreat. These actions slowed the German armored forces even more, as they had to outrun their own supply lines. The crucial part of the battle took place in Bastogne, an intersection of 7 supply routes. The German 5th Panzer Army attacked Bastogne in an attempt to control these supply routes. In 36 hours, at the same time the 6th Panzer Army had reached Le Glaise, Bastogne was completely surrounded and cut off from resupply. General McAuliffe and the men of the 101st Airborne Division were required to hold the town until reinforcements from General Patton's Third Army could arrive. After 3 days of constant artillery barrages and sustained attacks by German forces, General McAuliffe received a memo from the commander of the German forces with demand that the American forces surrender or be destroyed. General McAuliffe's one-word phrase, or one-word response, went down in military history. Nuts. General Patton's Third Army, which had disengaged German forces in Saarbrücken and remaneuvered north, broke the encirclement on December 27th, opening up supply lines to the 101st and Bastogne and allowing injured personnel to be evacuated. Just 3 weeks later, Allied forces had retaken most of the territory, all the way up to the initial front lines. Due to broken morale and most importantly supply lines, the German Wehrmacht was no longer able to effectively defend the fatherland and fell just 4 months later on 30 April 1945. In conclusion, Adolf Hitler developed a plan on September 16, 1944. His plan was to force the Allied powers into surrender so he could allocate more forces to the Eastern Front in the winter. The most crucial part of the battle took place in Bastogne, an intersection of 7 supply routes. The Allied forces were able to hold the critical supply points, and just 3 weeks after breaking the Bastogne encirclement, Allied forces had retaken most of the territory. And Germany fell just 4 months later. That is everything I have. Thank you.